Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Silver Tears Tarot and welcome to today's reading. So, today, based on the emails that I've been getting from you guys, emails, notes, all kinds of different, comments, things that I'm just kind of pulling together, plus what showed up with my meditation, we're going to look into the nature of this relationship. We're going to kind of look into one person asked, why did they manifest us after so many years? That was in one of the comments. Another person said something very similar. Why did they manifest us, and why did they do it when they did? And so it all comes back to the nature of the relationship, and so that's what we're going to take a look at. It'll be a general reading as always, so it's going to be a general reading for this collective. It's not going to resonate with everybody. It really shouldn't resonate with everyone. But if it does resonate with you, then by all means, subscribe. Take a look at some of the other readings that have come through, some of the other messages. They're all very much connected to one another. Let's see. I think we will use, this is the main deck, and here this will be the clarifying deck. So starting out, we're going to look at... it's going to be the energetic backdrop. What we're looking for is ultimately going to be the energy that is flowing between the two of you. And we want to bring into consideration that energetic backdrop as well, energetic and emotional backdrop. So it's kind of like, what's the energy that you're floating in, but what's also, Chariot, what is also kind of between you, what's really, like, what characterizes that energy? And we have the Chariot. So this is energy of motion, very much in motion. Queen of Pentacles in the reverse feels a little bit like... it lacks organization, or it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like it may just be hammer down, power forward, and it's not necessarily it'll get organized on the way, Page of Swords says communication. It says communication, and it seems like reasonably articulate communication given the amount of nerves. We've been seeing a lot of communication energy here lately. So sometimes, I don't even ask the question, are they going to reach out? Because the communication energy is here. That's ultimately what the answer would end up being. It would be, yeah, it's here. It all depends on what they do with it and then what happens when they apply their free will to it. But that communication energy is strong here. That's what's happening between the two of you. There's a little bit of that moving forward. The Chariot with the Queen of Pentacles kind of seem like they're bouncing off of one another a little bit. So it feels like moving forward, but not necessarily, again, being super organized about it. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. So I don't say that to say that the disorganization is an issue. Page of Swords, like I said, that's just communication with a side of communication. It does have the sense of it kind of being sudden, unexpected, feels like it comes out of nowhere. It doesn't actually come out of nowhere, but it feels like it does. There is, even though there's this tendency to kind of roll forward in this energy, there's also a feeling of fear. With the Strength card in the reverse, this is a feeling of fear where the fear is winning out over the strength. So for the ones that don't reach out, this is what they're fighting. This is what they're fighting. And if they reach out, they're doing it, getting past this fear. If they're not reaching out, then they're not reaching out despite this move forward and communication energy. So they really are being pulled in a couple of different directions. With the Nine of Pentacles here reminds me a little bit of this Queen of Pentacles. And it's got this feeling of, it's not the same kind of disorganized feeling as the Queen of Pentacles, but it's kind of not really having it all together, not having your business all together. We have the Star card, we have the Two of Cups, we have the King. Okay, so we stop here. Honorable mention with the Page of Wands. So the pages bring communication, and the Page of Wands is it's a strong sense of communication. I'm going to put it back, and if it wants to come back out, it can. But with the Page of Wands, it's like curiosity. It's like they just have to know what's going to happen. There's a little bit of that. And then we had the Star, the Two of Cups, the King of Pentacles. And honestly, I think what what draws me to the most with this King of Pentacles. Okay, so what I'm mostly noticing with this King of Pentacles is this is masculine energy, which of course everyone has. So it doesn't matter what your gender is, you can still have that King of Pentacles energy. It's King of Pentacles, like it's supportive, solid, strong, providing sort of masculine energy, and it's very balanced. It's easily so the thing is with this Queen of Pentacles, it's in the reverse over here. It kind of gives you the sense that it's not particularly balanced. It's not particularly organized, but I would say that it is not unbalanced. With the Star, it's so much the two of you are moving toward you're moving in the direction that you should be, but it's difficult to say like the twists and turns that's going to take. So for part of that time you have been very close together in, you were triggering one another, you were beginning to learn some lessons. There's been a lot of learning of those lessons. There still really is. Feels like it's going slowly. We've seen a lot of that Knight of Pentacles in the reverse, saying that, it kind of stops and starts sometimes. The progress forward kind of has that sense of stopping and starting. But there's a good feeling with the Two of Cups that there is still a partnership that's happening. And the thing is, it's constantly in motion, but not necessarily changing on the physical level. Um, and the thing is, a lot of times we're evaluating it on that physical level, because honestly, even if you are paying attention to the spiritual side of things, which is where a lot of this change and evolution is taking place, even if you are thinking about it from that side, the change is slow enough that it can be hard to see and easy to deny. That's kind of how it feels. It could be hard to see and easy to deny. So we have the Death card. There is change in the energy between the two of you, and some level of like it's a resistance. So the resistance, the Nine of Wands and the Lovers in reverse come out together. So you've got this sense of moving closer together and partnership that's happening, where the partnership is growing and evolving in the spiritual side, but in the physical side, you really don't see much movement. Part of the reason you really don't see much movement is because there feels like there's something here that your person does not, like they don't believe that they have a choice about. And there's this feeling of resistance that honestly I feel like crops up on both sides, but it is a result of something that kind of starts with them holding back, or them really resist, or not. It's not just resisting, it's hesitating. That's the word I'm looking for, that I'm feeling. It's got a sense of hesitation, and then additional concern from that hesitation. So they do something to hesitate, and you become concerned about it, and you shrink back as well, and it becomes kind of this cycle. But what I'm seeing here is that there is a significant enough change going on in the energy that this is a change that I feel like there's been some resistance to it. So we've seen a lot of resistance to moving forward, resistance to allowing towers to fall. In a lot of these cases, that tower was happening anyway, and it's just a matter of you might as well go along with it, because you end up in a better place as a result of it. Here is change where something is ending and something new grows in its place. And the thing is, you kind of almost have to go on faith, because you may be aware on some intellectual level that something new is going to grow in its place, but it's difficult to let go of what already exists. This is happening. This is energy that's happening on both sides. So you may feel a little of it, and just rest assured this person is feeling some of that too. Okay, so let's get a little bit more into the nature of the relationship and why they manifested you, why they manifested you when they did, because we've seen in previous readings that they absolutely did manifest you. Their manifestation of you is the reason that you came into their life at the time that you did, where they were working on some things that were going to result in a change in their values. And I don't think they ever could have or would have articulated it that way. Okay, so we have the moon here. One of the things that really feels like it shows up in this energy is The reason that you guys have come together is to learn. We see the lessons. We see that often coming through in these readings, but it's because there are certain lessons that are so squirrely, so difficult to learn that you have, and it's different for everybody, but not really. There are some definite patterns that are happening here in this collective. So I would say it's as different. There are as many different sets of lessons as there are people in this collective, but I would also say there are going to be some definite patterns, and we've seen some of those patterns. But one of the main issues, or one of the main reasons that you two came together, was to build this learning, to enable them to, they were becoming complacent. So you ask why they manifested you when they manifested you, and it has to do with what they were learning at the time. It was something that helps to keep them moving. They manifested you in so that they would be able to keep moving. And what I don't think I said it, I was just about to say, that this is such a difficult, there are some lessons that are so challenging, and as I was saying, so squirrely, that they can be really something that you'll avoid if they are not attached to something that keeps you coming back. So it's got to be something that's passionate. So you might be inclined to fix a concern around public speaking if you really, really feel a desire to do something that requires public speaking, you know. You might be inclined to learn the lessons with this person because they are wrapped around an interaction with this person, which is something that you would like to have and crave. But ultimately, and they crave it also, but they're ultimately, the reason that they manifested you in was because this is supposed to be a situation of learning. In some ways, it's a really pleasant way to learn, and in other ways, it's really not, because you get to see, due to the nature of the lessons that you're learning with them being, among other things, figuring out what it is that you truly want, what happens when you run into what you truly want. Do you, as your person did, turn tail and run the other direction? Do you have a tendency to chase the thing that you want and stop at nothing? Do you have, this is about you seeing that, determining that about yourself, and then having the opportunity to say, here are some changes I'd make to my response. That is one of the reasons that this relationship is what it is. It's one of the reasons the bond is here, is to help both of you learn the lessons that you're learning. And those are some commonalities that you see in the lessons. But one of the things that we see here with the Hanged Man in the reverse is that this is one of those things where, like, when you're watching a movie and you know something that the characters don't know, and so you see them walking into something and it's like it's going to become evident to them at some point, but it's not yet. This is like that. This is a situation where hindsight will make things a lot clearer. You hear that hindsight is 2020. I would say that hindsight will definitely be more like bionic vision for you, because when you walk into this, you don't actually have the perspective to understand why it is as important as it is. You simply know you can't get rid of it. You can't walk away from it. They know the same thing, but they don't exactly know why. It takes the perspective that you will have later on down the road to be able to see what's exciting about that, and what makes this whole thing worth doing the way that you're doing it. Otherwise, it gets very difficult. We know that there's a sense of a burden here, but there's also that feeling of, needing to figure out what is your burden and what should not be your burden. So it's a matter of being able to get to each of the decisions where you have to decide what you're going to do, and then looking at them and saying, wait, this really does not apply to me, or I guess this really does. Here's something that I am going to take on. So we also have this Empress coming out. And I guess, so the Empress comes out with the Two of Pentacles, and that's as far as we want to go. Let's see. Okay, so with the Two of Pentacles, I was just making sure I didn't drop anything on the floor, and I could swear that it feels like I did. Let me just double check. Okay, nothing on the floor. All right, so getting back to this, we've got the Empress, we've got the Two of Pentacles. This is an interesting feeling because it reminds me so much of this Queen of Pentacles and Nine of Pentacles that's going on over here. Underneath it all is this foundation of this solid foundation of being able to kind of manage everything, navigate everything, get through everything with a fairly level head. And then we've got this Queen of Pentacles over here that I mentioned feels kind of discombobulated, and it feels a little bit like it's disorganized, but it's not especially unbalanced. This Nine of Pentacles, again, feels like things aren't quite in line, but it's not the feeling of a person who doesn't have anything together. It's just a feeling of like a person who generally has it together and is running late today or something. It's got, this does not threaten us. This feeling does not feel real threatening, and it's because of this Empress that's underlying everything. The Two of Pentacles feels very much like that energy of the day where you're running late. The Empress is that feeling where you are able to calm yourself down on the way to wherever you have to go, and say, you know what, I understand the worst that could happen here, and I think I can handle it. It's got that sort of vibe to it. Okay, so Knight of Cups over here, which is bringing communication once again. But this reminds me so much of the Page of Cups. It has that feeling of bringing communication, but it also has this feeling of it being like pages also bring a very youthful, naive sort of energy in a lot of cases. Knight is a little bit more developed. Now, it's no king or queen, but it is more developed energy. And this Knight is definitely more decisive, more action oriented. But it still feels like, so you've got communication all over this energy, and there will be a tendency for them to, like, they'll have dreams and wake up and feel like you already know what's going on, whatever happened in those dreams. That's kind of the sort of familiarity that sits in this energy. There is, we mentioned the Ten of Cups and that feeling of something being too good to be true, and what happens when you run across the thing that you think, it sort of represents what is your wish fulfillment, your Nine of Cups. What is it that would really give you what it is that you want, and then what do you do when you run across it? Because this causes a gasp. This causes you to take the breath in and say, oh my goodness, what do I do next? And how does that look? And with the Four of Swords, with this healing, so the one thing I'm drawn back to, this Hanged Man, where this feels like learning to go on faith a little bit. It honestly feels like learning to go on faith, which is one of the things that we learn through, so those mantras that sometimes come up in these readings that I use. Last year in October, I did a video. It's in the bonus videos on meditation. And then over the summer, because I mentioned the mantras regularly, someone said, could you just tell us what the mantras are? You mentioned there being several, so I did a video on that over the summer. This one reminds me of a couple of them, really, but it reminds me especially of surrendering to what is the situation that is now, and being able to, it's like the Temperance card, and being able to find balance and go with the flow as you're working through the healing, but also to have the trust that what you need is coming for you. Not having that trust is going to cause you to hold more attachments, and it limits you, honestly. So when we do tarot, sometimes people are saying, well, what's going to happen? What is it that's going to happen? When can I expect X, Y, or Z? And what this is saying is basically, you're being encouraged to trust that you're moving in the right direction. Oh, but also you're being told over here that you're moving in the right direction. It doesn't, of course, account for what's going to happen with your free will. You could make a direction, or you could make a decision to go off the rails, to hold more responsibility than is required when you get to each one of those decision points and you say, is this my problem or isn't it? You could choose to hold on to some things that maybe it doesn't make sense to hold on to. You get to make those choices. This is the free will that guides you, and it's a beautiful thing, but it also means that I can't always tell you what's going to happen, because other people's free will, yours and other people's, it's purely your own. It's a gift given to you. So with the Five of Pentacles in the reverse, we see the Four of Swords in the upright and the Five of Pentacles in the reverse. And these talk about healing. They talk about being able to give over to that trust. It's the Five of Pentacles. A lot of times for us, it's about the big three. It's about the fear of rejection and abandonment and betrayal. That's the big three. And so now, if you listen to these videos all the time, you're like, yeah, yeah, I've heard the big three. But there's always going to be somebody that's new that's like, what's the big three, Silver? So that's what that is. And with the Five of Pentacles in the reverse, we see healing in those areas. Now, remember, this is a place where the two of you had a need for healing overlapping. Okay, and so in tomorrow's reading, I think we're going to ask about the healing that they're going through, how it's going. Are they ever going to work through it? Because it feels like they're in a very different place on the path. And that's another question that's come up a couple of times as well. But here is confirmation you two are really going through some healing. You really are doing some wonderful things. However, it is a slow process, just like we see there. And in fact, one of the reasons that you came together, not just to create more healing, not just to maintain this process so that even though it is a little bit slow, it continues to happen. Also to give you a little bit of that 10 of Cups lessons. So what do you do when you run into something that feels like the big full package? What do you do when you run into that? And your person, in a lot of cases, ran away. They saw it, it felt too big, and they ran away. And this purpose of this is all about them learning to navigate that instead of just running away in fear. So one of the reasons that they one of the reasons that they manifested you in at the time that they did was because they were trying to sweep it under the rug, and it needed to be brought up again. And this is kind of that. This is the opportunity for it to come up for you again, for them again. You brought up the learning in them, that the things that you triggered them about are the things that they needed back in their lives. They needed somebody to come along and bring those up. They were not moving forward on those on their own, so they needed some kind of impetus to make it happen. And this is really hard. So, and a lot of you already know this. If you've been watching the readings, you already know this, but your person has not been in a place where they are happy. Okay. They have been in a place where, honestly, even when they are happy, like you brought them some of the happiest times they can even, remember, but they were, a part of them was never happy then. And it was because of an inability to be happy, something that basically they were setting themselves up for failure with regard to happiness the whole time. And so now you have opened their eyes to that, which is another reason why, like, kind of the nature of this relationship, it brings certain things to light for them that, again, you weren't going to do if the two of you weren't learning from one another, because these are such difficult things and challenging things to sort out that you would have swept it under the rug and walked away. That Ace of Swords that we see coming up constantly in these readings, it's all about being faced with the truths around this and kind of being caused or forced to face that and acknowledge it, and in some cases not being ready to do it. When we see it come in reverse, it's oftentimes, okay, there's a truth here, it's been presented, but it hasn't really been absorbed because it's hard. This is something that happens gradually. So it really is the learning. It really is the lessons. I think since we're going to get into whether your person is really working through their lessons and like how that is going, I think let's get into the lessons that you guys are currently working on when we get into the extended. And that'll be a little bit of a sneak preview so that tomorrow's will be a little bit of an extended for this extended that we're about to do. But that'll be about the lessons. I think we'll take a little bit of a look at both of yours and maybe the bridge to see what needs to happen in order for you to get where you need to go. Because we see a lot of communication kind of reverberating throughout this energy, but what is really ultimately going to happen with that? And where do you need to focus? Let's take a look at where you need to focus. So this is that third question that I always ask, given what's on the table, what's your area of focus? Keep focusing in the areas of love. Queen of, these come out together. And this comes all right on top and with the Three of Swords. Okay, so here, that's super interesting. That Three of Swords has been coming out for you a lot. And it's the Three of Swords of recognition. And one of my decks even calls it recognition. I remember the first time it came out, feeling like that, and it actually literally said recognition at the bottom of the card, and I was like, oh my goodness, that's what that is, and it doesn't always come out that way. But this is seeing those things that have made you sad in the past and being able to do something productive with it. So it's recognizing something that's caused pain, but not necessarily going back into that pain. With the Knight of Cups here, this is about navigating communication. You've got communication coming. You see the Knight of Cups here, feel it again here. You've got the King and Queen of Cups, which is incredibly, I'm going to slide this under here. It's incredibly balanced, positive, loving, emotionally open, so beautiful and emotionally open that it almost feels like you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. And this is you by yourself without anyone else's energy mixed in. This is what you are encouraged to focus on. So this is an energy that's rising in you right now, and you're encouraged to focus on it and allow it to really kind of come out. So we've got the Justice card in the reverse. The purpose of this energy is to flush out darkness with light. So you've got to look for things that are, this is like inner child healing. And there may be some inner child healing associated with this, but you're looking for a situation of darkness that is going to be flushed out with the light. Openness to learning is critical here. You've got the Page of Pentacles. And it's interesting because with the Page of Pentacles, sometimes that comes out as I was feeling it over here, and I was feeling like this is almost with that naivete feeling. But the thing is, it's not naivete like you're being tricked. It's like you don't understand exactly what it is that you have to learn. So it's a naivete that you can be very aware of and be somebody that is ready to do something about it, I guess. The Hierophant, I'm just going to grab all of these as they go, and we'll see how far down we go. The Hierophant is about listening to guidance. There's going to be guidance that comes to you that honestly doesn't feel very pleasant. And you're encouraged to, when you find it, listen for it, listen to it. Resist the urge to immediately write it off as inaccurate. Think about it a little bit more and recognize that you may have to listen to it more than once. You may have to read it more than once. Whatever it is, however you're getting this, you may have to present yourself with this idea more than one time. We have a Queen of Swords in the upright and an Ace of Swords in the reverse. The Queen of Swords is about getting rid of something. It's actually cutting something out. This is actually shutting something down that exists in your life that does not need to be there. I'm not suggesting that you shut it down in a particularly negative or brash way, but this card feels like it's done, it's over, and it's like immediately. It's like there was not even a tower required here. You just moved on, something that happened. And yet, you've got this energy in the background of this Ace of Swords in the reverse, like we were talking about, information that's come in, but it's been very difficult to work through. And let's see, we've got the Moon and the Six of Pentacles. That's as far as those go. But let's look at this. So with the Six of Pentacles, here is you focusing on making sure that what comes to you is what you deserve. You may have to turn this Ace of Swords in the upright and acknowledge some kind of inconvenient truth, excuse me, in order to do so. But you'll be coming out, you see this Moon here that says you're going into this to learn lessons. The nature of your relationship is really around learning lessons. Here, this is you unveiling some of those lessons. So once again, I see this Ace of Swords going into the upright. I see it being partially as a result of this this Queen of Swords cutting something out of your life, and it feels like this is associated somehow with advice that you receive and you just know it resonates and you know. But keep in mind that you're looking for things that are not right because this is the time to solve them. But the key is going to be turning this Ace of Swords into the upright and assimilating that new truth in that seems very difficult to assimilate. So we're going to go ahead and go into the extended. Going to take a look at the lessons, which will be a bit of a sneak preview for tomorrow's reading. It's going to bridge this, and then we'll do the bridge question. But we're going to look at kind of what's happening with these lessons, and then tomorrow we look at how your person's doing on them, and honestly, if there's anything that you can be doing to help move them along. We ask the question oftentimes, what should you be doing? There's communication coming out towards you, or there's the energy of that. So what should you be doing? Should you be being proactive? Let's look to see what comes out, and we'll see what's happening in the lessons when we get into the extended. So the link for that is going to be down below this video in the description. I would love to see you there, or I will look forward to seeing you again in tomorrow's reading.